Good day. My name is J.P. Bullo. I'm going to tell you my work experience could be pertinent to get leverage. I had a 30-plus year career in the financial markets, and one of the areas of expertise I developed was selling the shares of companies that I believe are worthless. That might sound a bit confusing, so let me explain. When an investor sells short a common shares, they're selling shares in anticipation of price decline. And if all goes according to plan, they're buying back the shares at a future date at a lower price. The companies I was involved with had sought the protection of the courts from the banks and the bondholders. Namely, they sought the protection of Chapter 11 in order to restructure their financial affairs. In other words, they were broke. They couldn't pay their bills. They were corporate deadbeats. At least, that's how things appeared. Better get those facts right, or your career could be over. How did this all matter? Well, it had to do with the company's capital structure, which basically means how a company finances itself. The companies would get into trouble when their cash flow from operations wasn't sufficient to respect the conditions of their loans. They'd become corporate deadbeats. They'd miss like a credit card payment. What I had to do was dig deep into the filings at the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and establish the value of the claims versus what the company's assets were. The secured lenders had first priority, and the unsecured lenders came next in line, and lastly were the equity holders, the shareholders. This meant eyeballing the assets of the company and getting a rough approximation of how they could satisfy the claims of creditors. In addition, it was essential to keep an eye for bankruptcy court filings in order to see if any news could impact the value of the recovery for the creditors either positively or negatively. What this all led to was a zero. At least, that was my expectation most often after doing my research. It worked like this. Unless the banks and the bondholders receive all of the monies owed to them, the bankruptcy law says the equity holders receive no consideration, meaning the equity value is wiped out, meaning the gain would be whatever the amount the shares were sold for. As all good things come to an end, this did as well. Firstly, the SEC more than 10 years ago made it more and more difficult for individual shareholders to sell short these shares. Secondly, the hedge funds moved into the space and bought large positions into the company's equity. They would start a never-ending litigation and force the creditors to give some consideration to their position. I hope you enjoyed this small look into the financial markets.